Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be creating this goal planner slash vision board. So we are in November, we're going to be heading into the new year soon, and I figured now would be a good time to show you how to create this template. We'll start with a quick template overview. The first tab is the setup tab. Here's where you would organize your goals, the categories, things like that. And you don't have to be precise with this, and I'll show you why when we get to the next tab. So if you want to use it as a place to just dump in your ideas, feel free to do so. The next tab is the goal summary. Think of this as the vision board part of the template. Let's focus on the first goal. This goal is to complete a half marathon. We have an image that represents that goal. And then I'll come back to this chart in a minute. Here we have the deadline, the category, number of days we have left to complete the goal status, reflection questions. Down here, we have the steps that we need to take to complete this specific goal. You can also add a deadline here and cross the steps off as you complete them. This chart here represents the number of steps completed and the ones that haven't been completed based on what we check off here. And the rest of the sections are identical to this one. The nice thing about this is once you create the structure right here, you can copy it and paste it as many times as you need. Here I have 4 sections. So you can expand it vertically and add more, or you can even go down here and add 4 more sections. So depending on how you like to work, if you want to scroll this way or you want to scroll down to see more goals, you can do so. So back here, let's cross this off. We have completed it. Let's start by creating the setup tab. Create a blank sheet, rename this setup tab to, okay. And what I like to do with my sheets is before I start anything, I would clean it up. And that just means I select the entire thing, select the font style that I want to use, and change the alignments. And the next thing I like to do is remove the excess rows and columns that I'm not going to be using, because I like to have a small area that I need to work on. So if we go here, you see that everything after G has been removed and everything after 25. So I'll do the same thing here. Select column H, select everything all the way down, delete it. Do the same here. Select row 26, select it all the way down and delete it. Select column A, column G, resize to 30. Select the entire row section. Right click, resize that to 30 as well. All right, let's take a closer look at this section. We have a column for checkboxes, a wide column for the goals, and you can make this wider depending on how detailed your goals are. The third column is for goal category. This column is for the images that represent the goal. And finally, we have a column for deadline. So I'm going to copy these headers because I'm using the same information in the template we are creating. Okay, so go ahead and do the same, or if you want to use other headers, you're free to do so. Back here, we're going to leave this column blank, paste it right here, values only. Next, we're going to create the table structure around this header. Select the entire header area, go to borders, put an outer border around it. Selected everything from row 3 to row 24. Go back to borders, we'll put another outer border, and now I want to put in some horizontal borders, so I will select horizontal borders. I do want to change the color and style, so I'm going to go ahead and select a lighter color and use this dotted line. All right, it's hard to see now, but once we remove the grid line, you should be able to see it fine. The next thing to do is to adjust the column width. So we know this is going to be a narrow column for checkboxes, so I'll resize that to 30. And for our goal column, I'm going to start with 400 for now, and then we could always resize it if we need to. Next is category. I'll make this a little bit wider to 150. And for our images, we don't need it too wide, so let's just change this to 45. And deadline, we can make it the same as category, 150 as well. In our first column, we need to put in checkboxes. So select the entire column area from row 3 to 24. Go to insert checkboxes. I like to make the checkboxes just a little bit smaller, so I'll decrease the font size for that area. So here's going to be our goals section. I'm selecting that area. We don't need to do too much formatting. The only thing I want to do is align it left, like so. Our category column is a regular column. This is going to be for images. We don't have to format this range. The last column is the deadline, so we need to format this using the date format. Select the entire range. Go to data, data validation, add rule, click reject the input and check this box. Click done. And now if I double click, the date picker option shows up and I can select whatever date I want. And we can change the date format. Select the entire range, go back to format, custom date and time. And here we have even more date and time options to choose. I'll choose this one right here, click apply. And now it shows up in this format. All right. And then I'm going to be reusing this information. So I'm going to copy it from here. Or you can go ahead and add placeholder information. Or if you already know the goals you're going to be working on, go ahead and start typing in your goals. Remember, you can use it as a brain dumping area. The goals you type here do not necessarily make it into your goal summary tab. In the goal summary tab is where you would select the goals you actually want to work on. All right. So I have my goals here. And I'm going to remove these images because I want to show you how I added them. So to add images, go to insert image, insert image in cell, There are many places you can insert images from. If you want to use images from the internet, you can go to Google Images, search for the images, and then insert them into your template. I do have images that I have created specific for this tutorial. So I'll click Browse. I'll select the first image from here. All right, because I clicked into the cell, not this one, it inserted the image here, which is fine. All we need to do is just drag it to the right position. So that's how you would insert image. And the other thing that is important about the image is the dimension. So I'm going to go forward a little bit to the goal summary, and you can see that these images fit this rectangle perfectly. So right now, I'm not showing you how to do that. We're just inserting the image. And then when we get over to this area, I'll show you how to make the images fit in perfectly. All right, so let's insert the rest of the images. I only inserted 4 images because that's all we need to complete this tutorial. And next, let's remove the grid lines because we're done with the general structure. To do this, view, show, grid lines. All right, and then go ahead and add whatever color you want. What I like to do is add colors using the custom color area. This is because it helps me make changes a lot easier down the line if I need to change the colors or make different versions of this template. I do have a quick video that shows you how to do so. I'll leave the link down below so you can go ahead and check it out. All right, so go ahead and add whatever colors you want. I've added the color I wanted and made this area bold. The last thing we want to do is to add conditional formatting. So if we go back here and I cross this off, you can see that we have conditional formatting that applies this effect to the goal. So we're going to do the same thing here. To do this, select the entire area, go to conditional formatting, skip over to formatting rules, and go all the way down to custom formula. All right, here we're going to type in a simple formula, which is equals. We're going to add the cell location with the first checkbox. The first checkbox is in column B and row 3. So B3, we need to add the $sign before B3. So just add $sign B3. The next is formatting style. To create the same effect that I did, I used this light fill color and I changed the text color to this gray color right here. The strike through effect is applied by clicking strike through. So just click that. And you can see a preview of what it looks like here before you click done. So this looks good. I'll click done. And then now when I check this off, you can see that that effect has been applied. All right, we are done with this tab. Back to our tutorial checklist. Let's cross this off. The next is going to be to create the structure of the goal summary tab. Add a new sheet. All right, goal summary 2. Select the entire range, change the font, change the alignment. And just like I did for the setup tab, I'm going to remove the excess rows and columns. So if we go here, we don't need to remove any columns. We actually need to add a few more. So we'll add 3 more columns. And for the rows, remove everything after 32. Then select the entire range for the rows, right click, resize it to 30. The first column, last column, resize it to 30 as well. All right, so this is the blank slate we're going to be working with. Back here, we're going to create this first structure. And then once we're done with it, we're going to copy it and paste it throughout the rest of the template. We'll start by adding the overall outline. So from B to G and all the way down to 31. And then we'll create this section right here. All right, so we have B to G all the way to 31, put an outline around it. And then we have this section that's going to be where our goal is going to go. Select the entire range, put a border around it as well, and merge that cell. Next, we need to expand row 3 so it fits the image here. So we'll resize that to 300. Select the entire range, merge, and add an outline around it. Next, we're going to resize the columns. We have a narrow column followed by 4 regular columns and another narrow column. Do the same here. Select column B and column G. Resize those to 30. All right. Remember how I mentioned that the images here have to fit a certain dimension? Here is what I meant by that. Here is the section that we need to add an image. You see how the image fit in here perfectly? And that's because I used these dimensions right here to create a Canva template, and I pulled my images into Canva, downloaded them, and then re-uploaded them here. Let me show you what that looks like. So here's where we want our image to go. And I will provide a Canva template that I use, but I want to show you how I did it, just in case you are not using the exact same dimensions that I am using. All right, so the first thing I did was just take a screenshot of this. So I'm using the default screenshot program for my computer. So I'm just making sure it's aligned perfectly into that rectangular space. All right, so if we look here, you can see that it gives us a preview of what the size is, which is 467 by 303. So you can use that to create a Canva template, or we can just go ahead with creating the screenshot because we're going to upload this into Canva. All right, so I have my screenshot. Here we are in my Canva account. And there are 2 ways to do it. You can use the numbers from the dimensions that appeared when we were creating that screenshot, or just use upload. So click on upload, upload file. I'm going to upload the screenshot, and I uploaded the screenshot here. You can see it's just a blank rectangle. Click on use in design, and it's going to ask, what would you like to create? Click on custom size, and it's going to automatically pull in the dimensions of the screenshot, which is perfect. click on create new design. All right, delete the rectangle, and now you can pull in your images into Canva. So you can do this by uploading your images if you already have them, or you can use the default images from Canva, which is what I did. So search for whatever image you want. Here are the recent images that I searched for, and I'm just going to pull the same ones in. So here's the one for the podcast. Add another image for running. All right, so we're just dragging the images here and setting the image as background to make sure they fit. And you can readjust it by double clicking. You can see how you can pull it this direction or this direction. All right, you can do the same with this. Let's say you want it bigger, you just drag it here and then readjust the size. Next is to download the images. To download the images, click share, download. PNG is fine. Make sure that all pages are selected. Click download. Save it into your preferred location. You're going to need to unzip the file to be able to upload it into Google Sheets. All right, so that's how I was able to get all the images to fit in perfectly using the exact same dimensions. I'm going to show you what it looks like without using the template. So let's add an image here. I'm going to search for a random image in Google, select this image, click insert. So you can already see here that this image looks different. So I go back here and select the goal that's tied to that image, which is this one. Here's what it looks like. So if you wanted to use a specific image and it's not this shape, you just need to take it into Canva. So it crops it up using these exact same dimensions and then re-upload it into your template. All right, so let's keep going with the structure. We'll add in the formulas later, which will be responsible for pulling in the images. Next is going to be the chart area, which is row 4 and 5. Row 4 is narrow and row 5 is wide. So keep row 4 as is. Select row 5 and resize that to 200. All right, and select the entire range. Put an outer border around it, not merging it for now. The next is 6, 7, and 8. We don't need to resize it, but we need to add some internal borders. Go here, select the range, add the external border first. And now we're going to add our internal horizontal borders, change the color and the style by using the dotted line. The next area is for the reflection question. It goes from row 9 to row 20. The first would be the header area and the rest of it would be for 3 reflection questions. If you're going to need to add more reflection questions, go ahead and add more rows here. So we have 9 to 20, add our border around it. And here's going to be the header area for the reflection. So we'll merge that and add its outer border. All right, so start by adding the number 1 in row 11. So we're leaving 10 blank. And this is where the question is going to go. So select that entire range next to 1, merge it, select the next 2 rows underneath it. We're going to merge that as well and add background color to it. So I'm using this gray color. All right, so this part is done. We're going to repeat this 2 more times. Let's copy it. Row 14, paste. Row 17, paste. And now we can change this to 2 and 3. So we have our questions that go here and responses go here. The last section would be for the steps to complete the goal. We're breaking the goal into smaller bite-sized steps so it's easier to accomplish. Back here, add an outline. Select the entire range for the internal section. We're going to add our horizontal borders, changing it to the lighter color and the dotted line. All right, so here's what it looks like. And here's where the number's going to go. And here we'll have checkboxes. So let's do the numbers first. Number 1, number 2. Select bold, drag it all the way down to the second to the last. I like to stop here because if I go all the way down, it's going to remove the bottom border. So I just stop here and type 10. Here's going to be for checkboxes. So select a range, insert checkbox, and just make this slightly smaller. And then this section is pretty much done. Back here, let's add in some more details. So the first thing here is the drop down. So let's add our drop down here. To add our drop down, click here, data validation, add role. It's going to be drop down from range. So change it to drop down from range. Click the icon to insert the range. Go to our setup tab 2. And the range is going to be where our goal is because we want our goal to show up in that section. So select the entire range for our goal. Click OK. Go to advanced options. I want to change it to arrow. So click that. Click done. So now when we go here, all our goals show up here. So we can select whatever goal we want, which is why I mentioned earlier, just use this as a goal dumping area because it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work on that goal. It just means that you can select from this list and work on the goal that you want to work on. Here's going to be for the image. We'll do that later. Here's going to be for the chart. So we'll skip this as well. Next, we'll work on this section right here. Back here, this information will be pulled into what we added into our setup tab. So we have our deadline goal category, the number of days left. And this will be calculated automatically using a formula based on the difference between today's date and the deadline. And we have our goal status and we have a small section that we can add notes or reminders. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to copy this placeholder information. All right, so these 2 columns need to be merged. So select both columns for the 3 rows. Go to our merge columns icon and instead of selecting merge cells, select the arrow next to it, merge horizontally. Select everything, click bold and left justify. we'll do something similar here. So select these 2 rows and these 2 columns, merge horizontally. And for the note section, the note's going to go here. So select this entire range and merge. All right. Here is where reflection questions are going to go. So go ahead and just add the header here for reflection questions. And then here is where you add whatever reflection question you want to add. It's going to be different for everybody. So just add whatever reflection questions you need to add. All right. So I have my reflection questions added, and then select the entire area. And we're going to left justify. It looks better left justified. And finally here, all we need to do is add our headers, the number column, the steps to complete the goal, the deadline, and the check mark. So go ahead and add those to your template. And I'm going to paste them here to save time. Okay, we're going to add our steps in this area. So we need to merge these cells. We'll start with selecting all of them, including the header for the entire section here. Go to merge cells, click on the arrow and do merge horizontally. And then left justify. And here's where we're going to add our dates for the deadline. Select the entire range. We have our data validation open. So do another add rule, change it from drop down to is valid dates, reject the input, check this box, click done. And then I'm going to use the date format we used before, which is this one. So now when I double click, I can select the dates and it shows up like this. All right, so the general structure is done. I did forget to add the drop down here. So let's do that now before we add our colors and formulas. So here's where we need to add the drop down. So select that cell, data validation, add rule. We're going to leave it as drop down. If you want, you can add an area in your setup tab for the different drop down statuses and use drop down from range. But for this, I'm keeping it simple and adding 3 drop down options. So I typed in not started, in progress, and completed and click done. So now I can select whatever one I want. And if you want to add some color, go back and add whatever color you want. So we can assign this red, orange, and green for completed and click done. All right, so it looks like this. All right, so now we are done with the general structure. So go ahead and apply whatever colors you want. I'm going to be applying colors from this color palette. All right, so we are done with the structure. Let's go back to our tutorial checklist, see how we're doing. So we did the structure and we did the image formatting. Let's cross this off as well. Next, we'll add our formulas and formatting to the goal summary tab. So back here, you can add the image directly here if you want, but to make things more efficient, we're going to pull the image from the setup tab. To do this, we're going to use a filter formula. Here's what the formula looks like. It's a filter formula. It's going to look at the goal we selected here, and then it's going to pull the image from column E that corresponds to the goal in B. The goal is in column C in the setup tab, and the images are in column E. So that's how the formula works. Pretty straightforward. We're going to copy this formula and paste the formula here. All right. And the only thing I'm going to change is I wanted to reference setup tab 2. So if your tab is called setup, you don't have to do anything. I just want to make sure that it references this new tab that I created for this tutorial. So setup tab 2 and change this to setup tab 2. And the formula should work without a problem because I use the exact same rows, columns, and ranges. Now here is where I'm going to mention that try to use the same rows, columns, and ranges that I am using to make sure your formula works. And later on, when your formulas are working without a problem, you can go ahead and rearrange things and your formulas will adapt. If you're not going to be using the same ranges, just make sure that this first range here is the range for your image. So E3 to E24 in your setup tab. You can see that right here. This is where our image is, E3 to E24. And the second range is the range for the goal, which is C3 to C24. And make sure that the first cell here is B2 and the cell here is B2. And then hit enter. Right now, nothing shows up because if we go to our setup tab, we don't have an image attached to this goal. So let's select this first goal, which is complete a half marathon. See what happens. And when we do so, we have our image showing up here. All right, I probably need to adjust this a little bit to make sure it fits the image correctly. Adjust it a little bit to get rid of that white space. Next, we're going to reuse the same formula. The only thing we're going to need to change is the filtered range. All right, so we need to place the formula here to pull in the deadline. If we go to our setup tab, our image is in column E, deadline is in column F. All right, so paste the formula here. And everywhere we see E, we're going to change it to F. All right, and then we want to leave everything else the same. Click enter. And our deadline shows up as January 1st, 2026. If we go back to our setup tab, complete half marathon, January 31st, 2026. If I change it here to March 20th, back here, changes to March 20th. Do the same thing for category. Our category is in column D. Paste the formula here, change it from E to D. All right, for category, hit enter, fitness, correct. Okay, and then for the formula here, it's going to be the difference between today's date and this date. Here's what the formula looks like. Let's just copy that and paste it here. All right. And then D6 is the date here. We're subtracting today from D6. And I have an if condition here, which if this is blank, I want this cell to be blank as well. And this is just to make sure we have no error messages showing up when things don't match. and click enter. So now we have 129 days. To test it out, change this date to today's date. Back here, change it to November 11th, and now it shows up as 0 days left. You can take this a step further by changing the color when it's past the deadline. To do this, select the cell, go to conditional formatting, and the rule we're going to use is if the number is less than or equal to 0, select that, and the value here is going to be 0. All right, and change the format style to whatever you want. I'm going to remove the background color, change the text to red and bold. All right, so when we have 0 days left, it shows up as red. It should also show up for overdue date. So let's change this to September 15th, and it shows up as 57 days overdue. All right, next we're going to work on this area. And I just realized we actually don't need row 4. I originally added it because I was going to use it for some hidden formulas, but I ended up adding the hidden formula somewhere else. So you can delete row 4 because we don't need it. All right, so this chart represents what we have checked off and not checked off. Without adding formulas, the chart is not accurate. So let me show you what that means. If I select this area, click on add charts. So here's what the chart looks like. It's telling us that 20% of the tasks have been completed and 80% of the tasks have not been completed, which is not necessarily true. So let's add some placeholder data. All right, so we have 4 goals, and this is not accurate because it's saying that 2 of the goals are complete, which is true, but then it's going based on all of the unchecked boxes. It's counting the 6 boxes here that don't apply. So to make sure that this chart is accurate, we need to use formulas. So I'm going to remove this chart for now. Here is where the formulas are. The text color is white. I'm going to change it to black so you can see what it looks like. So we have 3 and 5. 3 represents the number of boxes checked. 5 represents the number of boxes not checked. That has a goal here. So it's not counting all of these boxes. It's only counting the number of boxes that has a goal assigned to it. So here's what the formula looks like. It's taking into consideration the content we have in this range. So just going to copy the first one, paste it here, hit enter. And now you see we have 2 checked off. So 2 shows up here. If I were to check this off and check this off, this is 4. So it works the way it's supposed to. And we'll copy the second one and paste it here. All right, so it's counting the check boxes that are not checked in this range. Hit enter. So now it's 3 because we have 3 values here assigned to check boxes, and these check boxes are not checked. So if I cross this off, now it's 2 and 2. Cross this off. Now this is 1 and 3, and finally cross the fourth one is 4 and 0. So it works exactly how it's supposed to work. Now we can use these values to create our charts because this is an accurate representation of what's going on down here. To do this, select both of them, insert charts. It's going to automatically select the chart that it thinks works best. We don't want this. Select the chart we want, which is either pie chart or donut chart. And you can select pie chart because you can adjust the donut hole. So here's what it looks like. Just make this smaller so we can test it out and see if it works. So uncheck this, and it adjusts automatically the way it's supposed to. So now that the chart is working, I'm going to make some formatting adjustment and then move it to where it's supposed to go. Double click to open up the setup tab. Go to customize. First, I'm going to remove the background and the border. And then here is where you can change the donut hole. So I can change this to 85. So we have the thin goal. If you want it thinner, you can increase the number. If you want it thicker, decrease the number. And I like to add a border. I just like how it looks with the border color. All right. And then now we can move the chart up to its location. All right. So here's where it's going to go. Just resize it like so. So now we can add some labels here. So double click above this 50% so that the text box opens up, and we can add our label, which is completed for this one. And then do the same here. Double click, not completed. All right. And then let's just double check. So 3 out of 4 completed. So it should be 75% here and 25% not done. So it works exactly how it's supposed to. All right, so now that we're done, we can hide this formula here. So select both of them, change the text color to white. If you're using a different background color here, just make sure you change the text color to the color of the background so it's hidden from sight. All right, so now that we have this done and all the formulas are working and set up the way it's supposed to, all we need to do is just copy and paste it to the rest of the template. So to do this, select from column B all the way to G. So this entire range from top to bottom, column B to G, copy it. All right. And then in column H, we're going to make this 30. So resize it to 30 and select right here at the top. So not any of these rows here, right at the top where it says column I. So select that and paste. And then do the same thing. Resize the column to 30, select column P, paste, and do it one more time. Column W, paste. All right. And then now that all of this is done, go up here, view, remove the grid line. And here's what it looks like. So the only thing that doesn't copy and paste over is the chart. So we can copy it individually and then change the range to make sure that the range matches what's in the chart. Select these three dots, copy the charts and paste them in this area. We need to adjust the ranges for these charts because right now it's reflecting the range from here. So we're going to adjust it to this column. So our formulas are still here. They're copied over. So if I select this area, change the font size to a dark color, you can see that the formula did copy over. So if I uncheck this, all right, the formulas are fine and they're responding to this section, not this section. So we are good to go when it comes to that. So now we can adjust the range. So click this to adjust the range. So instead of column E and F, we're going to change it to L and M. So change it right here. All right. The row number is the same, just the column number changes L and M, and hit enter. Now we can check off and this shows up as 1 and 2, etc. So it's now reflecting the correct value. So I did not show you how to do the conditional formatting. I must have copied it over when I copied the placeholder data from this tab. So let me show you how to do that. First, I'll just delete everything that's showing up here. All right, so to add a new one, select this entire range, add rule. We're going to do the exact same thing we did in the setup tab. Go all the way to custom formula, equals, look for the first checkbox. So the first checkbox is in G22. So do the $sign, G22. And now you can see it is applying it to the correct range. Let's change the formatting style. All right, and click done. So now when we uncross this, it doesn't show up like so. And when we do this, it shows up. So do the same thing to apply to the rest of the table. So select the entire range, add rule, custom formula is equals $sign and 22. Change the formatting style to whatever you like, click done, and then it works the way it's supposed to. Repeat the same steps for the additional sections that you have in your template. All right, so we have 2 more charts to correct the range. So double click, change the range here to S and T, hit enter. All right, so that works okay. And do the last one, Z to AA, click enter. All right, that is it. And then now that everything is done, you can go ahead and assign each section to the goal you want to complete. So here we already selected complete a half marathon. Let's select another goal for this section, launch and grow my podcast, and everything updates automatically. So the image shows up here and all of these updates based on the information we entered in the setup tab. And the next goal will be this, and it shows up like so. Everything updates, and one additional goal here would be this one, which is a financial goal, and it shows up exactly how it's supposed to. And as you progress with your goals, you can change the status. So we can change the status by selecting it manually. Or if you want, you can add the status as a column in your setup tab and then change the statuses there and use the same formulas we used here to filter the status into this area automatically. And you can do it however way you want. And that is it. We have completed our goal summary / vision board. Let's go back to our checklist so I can touch on 2 more things. We'll cross this off. I'll show you the demo planner that I have for sale. Of course, you can use this template as is, and it should be fine to start off the new year and plan your goals. But I do have a template for sale. So if you're looking for something with a little bit more functionality and everything already done, you can go ahead and support me by purchasing my template. So before I show you this demo, I want to talk about my Patreon. First of all, thank you to my current Patreon support. Your support goes a long way to help me continue to create this content. One of the benefits of being a Patreon member is that any template tutorial that I go through, so including today's tutorial, you will have access to this template. The template that we created today, you don't have to do any of the designs from scratch. You will get access to this completed template. So if you want to join my Patreon, I'll leave a link down below so you can go ahead and check it out. All right, so let's switch over to this template and see what it looks like. All right, so here is what it looks like. So we have our setup tab, very similar to what we have, but everything is already done for you. All the sections have been completed. We have a few more additional columns here. And here is the goal summary area. It has 23 areas for goals, which of course you can expand if you want to, but it already has enough for you to get started. Here's a summary area that gives you a summary of the statuses of all the goals that you have entered into the goal summary area, as well as a summary table that summarizes the information entered into these individual goal areas. And finally, we have a separate tab for brain dumping. So you can organize your ideas for quarters and monthly goals. You can take these monthly goals and put them into your goal setup tab, which of course feeds into your goal summary tab. So if you're looking for something with more functionality, I have this available. ready to go in my template shop. I'll leave the link in the description box so you can go ahead and check it out. And this is where we're ending today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.